All right, so welcome to our intermediate class today. And today our theme is around restoring rhythm and flow. So what that means really is when we get stressed or we have some traumatic event in our life, it sort of stops our flow, right? Stress is this tension in our body and things tend to not feel as flowing when we're stressed. They're just not as flowing when we're stressed. Um, so our nervous system goes into usually some kind of fight or flight or freeze, shut down, depending on the situation. And in that place, we feel like we're up against a wall. But what's really happening is that the rhythms in our body are out of whack in that state. So our resources are being used to flee or to fight whatever is going on. Most of the time, we don't need that response, right? It's more of a internal kind of pressure or pressure that's really not going to be resolved by punching someone out for the most part. Right? So we have all this extra energy in our bodies and excuse me, and to restore our natural rhythm brings us back to a place of equilibrium, right? So stress is totally fine. Stress is normal. We're all going to feel stress, but do we stay stuck in that stress mode, or are we able to get ourselves quickly back to a flow and a rhythm in our bodies? So today I want to talk a little bit about how we can do a few simple tools to restore rhythm in our bodies when we're feeling stressed out. So a lot of the things we already do in yoga, right? Tuning into our breath, noticing how we're feeling. But we can also do kind of rhythmic movements that help to restore equilibrium. So for instance, often if you're feeling stressed out, many of us will get up and go for a walk. If we're in a mode of self-care, we'll get up and go for a walk. And that rhythmic movement, especially bilateral rhythmic movements, so movements that are going from one side to the other, are restorative to our nervous system. So it brings us back to a place of feeling calm and centered, right? So today I'm going to teach you a very, very simple technique. It comes from a therapeutic modality called EMDR, eye movement desensitization, right? So, and what it does is it helps to restore rhythms. It's using a lot of eye movements and rhythmic movements in the body. But this particular one I'm going to teach you, you can kind of do anywhere, anytime when you feel yourself kind of come out of your equilibrium. And it's called the butterfly hug. And what you'll do is you'll take your hands like this and you'll cross your thumbs and touch the tips of your thumbs together. And then you want your hands to be a little more upright than sideways. So fingers pointing on an angle up towards the ceiling. And then you're going to locate your collarbones, which are just in the front of your shoulders here. And you're going to bring your fingertips below your collarbones. So you're not touching the bones there. So you're on the muscles of your chest. And then from here, one side, then the other, tapping. So you're just lifting the fingers and tapping one side and the other. So if you like, you can close your eyes. Just tune into this rhythmic tapping on your body. You may not feel anything at all profound. Or you may feel a sense of calm and ease. You may feel agitation. I really invite you to feel what you feel, right? So just because an exercise is meant for one purpose doesn't mean that that purpose is actually going to be what you discover. So I really invite you to tune in to yourself. So continuing a few more rounds of that butterfly hug, restoring our natural nervous system rhythms. So this exercise, and you can let that go now if you like. If you're really enjoying it, you can continue as I talk. but this exercise can be done really anywhere. When I'm feeling myself get kind of ramped up and irritated, I might just bring myself to this position. And it's, for me, it's very grounding, right? You may have a different experience with it, but for me, it's very grounding, very soothing. And it has been proven many times now that this bilateral rocking kind of movement, why walking is so good for our mental health, because it helps to restore our nervous system back to a place of equilibrium. So as I said, in yoga, we're doing this all the time, bringing our rhythm into our body, into our breath, and we will obviously continue with that today. So we're going to be on a comfortable seat. So if you have a cushion or chair, then you can find yourself there if you're not already, and I will see you there on my cushion. So you can sit cross-legged, you can sit with your legs out, whatever is comfortable for you. It is absolutely not essential to sit in any particular way. You can bring your hands onto your thighs, and I invite you to just bring one hand down and rock to that side, bring the other hand down and rock to that side. I want to mention that this, the bilateral movements, and even this one that we're doing here, but especially when we cross across the body, help to establish pathways from one side of the brain to the other. So when we're stressed out, parts of the brain get lit up, other parts of the brain go offline, and we can bring ourselves back to balance by doing these kinds of rocking movements. And I find I'm often, when I'm sitting, I'm rocking a little bit side to side. Right. And then let's come back to the center, and we'll come to a more of a forward and back movement, which is typically called cat-cow, especially when we're doing it on hands and knees, but we'll do it seated here. So it's a rocking a little bit forward onto the sit bones, the chest lifts, and the head lifts just slightly, not throwing the head back. And then you'll round, so you'll rock back onto the back of your sit bones as you round the back. You'll rock forward onto the front of your sit bones, so the pelvis tilts forward as you breathe in, tilts back as you exhale. If you ever find it doesn't work for you to coordinate the breathing with the movement, and some movements it's easier than others, just let go of the actual coordination. Keep breathing, keep moving, but don't worry about bringing them together. Right. And then let's come back to neutral position. So now we're going to bring eye movement into this as well. And where we gaze in yoga is called drishti. And each pose, there's a particular place where we're told we should have our attention. We don't always follow that. But the idea is that where our attention goes, our mind goes. Right? So if we're looking around, looking outside, looking at what's going on as we're doing our practice, we're not really with ourselves. But the therapy modality that I mentioned earlier, the EMDR, also uses eye movements to help restore balance in the body. So it's a very particular kind of therapy, and that's not what we're doing here. We're just using our gaze to bring our attention into the moment. So if you take one hand and reach it out to the side, and then turn to look at that hand, take a breath in, and as you exhale, follow your hand across your body. Bring it to the opposite shoulder. Pause there. You can even hold the breath out for a second. And then inhale as you follow the hand, opening it to the side. You can even add a little twist, turning back with the arm, looking with your gaze, and then following it around. If you find that you want to move more slowly than your breath allows, just breathe normally. If it feels comfortable to coordinate Inhale as you open, exhale as you come across, then you can do that. Pause for a second as you hold. We'll do a couple more on this side. So we're literally inviting different parts of our brain to come online as we coordinate movement, gaze, and maybe breathing. Great, next time you come across to your shoulder, you can open to finish, and then release the hand down. Pause for a moment, and then we'll do the other side. So you'll take the opposite arm out, turning to look at your hand, maybe adding a bit of twist if that feels good, and then bringing it across your body as you follow with your gaze to your opposite shoulder. Again, if it feels good to you when you reach your shoulder, you can pause there for a moment, chin down. Or just keep moving without that pause. Okay, finish the one that you're on, and to complete the cycle, we'll go out, following with the gaze, and then release. Great. And then let's come back to the cat-cow, but let's bring our gaze into it. So as you round your back and exhale, let your gaze come towards the chest or down towards the end of your nose. And then as you lift, your gaze lift up toward the ceiling. Try still not to crank your head back, so let your eyes do most of the work. And then rounding, looking down towards your chin or nose or chest. Lifting. So now we've got movement. If you're coordinating breath, we've got breath coordination, and we've got eye movement as well. So if we're thinking about all of these three things and bringing them together, it doesn't give our mind a whole lot of room to go wandering. Mind you, the mind will still go. It'll drop all those balls and run off at the slightest shiny object for the most part. And then the practice is not in keeping the mind engaged 100% of the time, but noticing every time it wanders and coming back to whatever your focus is in that moment. Right, and then coming back to the center, come back to that side-to-side rocking movement. So just shifting your weight from one sit bone to the other. And then as you shift your weight from side to side, start to add a little bit of a circle. So you'll shift to one side and come forward, shift to the other side and move back. Continue like that with a few circles. Let me see if you can really feel that weight shift one side to the other side. Be really curious about what you notice and what you feel as you do this movement. And then you can go the other way as well. So notice, what are you aware of when you change directions? Does anything change? Lovely. So coming back to the center, let's do a few circles with the wrists. One way and then the other. And then do the same thing with your hands in gentle fists. So one way and then the other. And then take your arms out to the sides, shoulder height or a little lower. Hands in gentle fists. And we'll bend the elbows and bring the back of your wrist toward your shoulder. And then open the hands and press the hands away, fingertips reaching up. Fingers spread, and then make gentle fists, turn them down and come in. And then press out. Coming in and pressing out. Make sure you're not holding your breath. Doesn't matter how you breathe, as long as you're breathing. Right, when we hold our breath, and it's a typical stress response is to hold our breath, it actually brings us more into a physical stress response in our body. So restoring rhythm means restoring the breath. Right? Let's do a few circles out here. Right, so sometimes when we're stressed, literally just noticing that we're holding our breath and coming back to the breath can restore us back to equilibrium. Give the hands a shake, the arms a shake. Let the arms come in and down. Give them a little more shake here, and then let them rest on your thighs. You can close your eyes for a moment and notice any sensations that are present in your arms, wrists, and hands now. So we're not looking for any particular answer here, but using our bodily sensations as a focus for staying present. Right, now if you've been sitting cross-legged for a while and your legs or feet have fallen asleep, go ahead and stretch them out. Maybe give them a little shake or rotate side to side, whatever. That's good. And then we'll make our way over onto hands and knees in table position. So again, we'll start with the most basic and easy rhythm here, that forward and back movement of cat-cow. So letting your tail lift, head slightly lift. So again, you don't want to crank the head back, but think of it more as an extension of your spine. And then rounding the back, tucking the chin in, pressing into the hands. So inhaling, if you're coordinating breath, into the arched position, exhaling into the rounded position. Right, and then we're going to add on here. So if you like, and this is optional, instead of just rounding the back, you could add child's pose to the exhale. So you'd inhale all fours. Make sure your elbows are soft. There's a tendency to lock the elbows and sink into the shoulders. So soft elbows, long neck, relaxed shoulders, and moving with the breath or not in whatever way feels right for you. So we're going to keep adding to this movement. Right? So now as you inhale, rather than just coming to all fours and finding a little arch in the back, try extending opposite arm and leg. So if it's right arm, it's left leg and vice versa. Then you'll bring them down and either move to child's pose or just into that rounded cat position. Other pair of opposites, reaching out and coming in. If you find yourself really struggling to balance, check and make sure that you're doing opposite arm and leg. So often when I'm teaching this to a group, there's usually someone in the class who's trying to do the same side and is wobbling like this and wondering what's wrong with them. So if that is the case for you, double check. It's much easier to balance when we're doing opposite arm and leg. Great. Now, if child's pose is comfortable for you, you can come back to child's pose and rest for a few breaths. An alternate, which works for many people, especially if your knees or your ankles don't appreciate this position, is just to be up a little more on your arms, let your head hang down, so you're in a modified kind of puppy position. Right, puppy would be with the arms stretched out. You've probably seen on puppies in your life. So either position, take a few breaths. Great, and then let's come back upright to all fours. And know that if your wrists need a break at any time, you just take it, okay? So we all have little different needs. You honor your own needs as they arise. So we're going to add a twist. And for this twist, we'll raise one arm out to the side into a little bit of an open twist. And then we'll take that same arm and slide it along the ground between the hand and knee on the opposite side, bringing the ear toward the ground. So lifting, and you can inhale as you lift, exhale as you slide through, if you're coordinating your breath here. If it feels good to keep moving, keep moving. If it feels okay to stay, you can stay. And if neither what you're wanting right now, just go to child's pose while we twist. So I think we looked at this one last week with the palm that's on the ground. If you want more twist, you're going to let that elbow point at the ceiling. As the elbow comes closer to the ground, it's going to give you less twist. So you can decide what feels good for you, or even move a little bit more twist, a little bit less twist by lifting and lowering the forearm. Eventually, coming back to the center, do a few rounds of back and forth with the cat-cow, or moving from all fours to child's pose. And then when you're ready, we'll come into the twist on the other side. So you'll start back on all fours, raising one arm to an open kind of twist, and then sliding it through, bringing the ear toward the ground as you exhale. So if you're coordinating breath, inhale as you open, exhale as you come through. Again, you have the option to keep moving, to stay in the twist, or if you prefer, to come back and rest in child's pose. So take your time, be in the twist, be moving, be in child's pose, really honoring whatever arises for you. And then as you feel ready to come out of the twist, actually just stay a little longer, and you can play with the elbow as we did on the other side, perhaps having the elbow pointing toward the ceiling for a little more twist. The more you press gently into the hands on the ground, the more you'll feel some twist. Or maybe it feels better for you to let that elbow rest down toward the ground. So whenever you feel ready to come out of the twist, and you may have already, that's fine, coming back to that cat-cow movement. Inhale, arch, exhale, round, or go to child's pose. So let's do a few more like that so we can really tune into and come back to a sense of equilibrium and rhythm. Great. So if you need a little break for your wrists, you can come to sit on your heels or be down on your forearms. If sitting like this isn't comfortable, do a few rotations. Always honoring your wrists. For many people, especially we spend so much time on computers, the wrists can be strained or weak. So really honor and listen. So don't force yourself to bear your weight when it's not feeling right for you. So we are going to move into downward dog. This is the part where I tuck my shirt in, move into downward dog, and play a little bit there. So again, I really encourage you to listen to your body and come on down anytime you need a break, all right? So As you're ready, planting your hands just a little bit ahead of your shoulders for downward dog, tucking your toes under, and we'll start by lifting up into downward dog and just walking in place. So feeling your calves and ankles start to wake up. Try to let your head relax. There's nothing to see right now, so let your head hang between your arms. Walking in place to wake up the shins, the calves, the ankles, the feet. And again, that rhythmic walking movement is just so soothing to our systems. All right, let's take a break. Come on down. Again, take the weight off your wrists in any way that is good for you. Do a little movement. Great. And this next one is a moving dog. I've heard it called the bulldog, but it's a moving downward dog. So what we'll do is we'll come back into downward dog, and we're going to take opposite foot and hand and move them forward. And then opposite foot and hand, move forward. You might walk off your mat, and then walk back. Opposite hand and foot is so much harder to walk backwards. Okay. So like we're crawling or walking on all fours. And you don't have to stay on your mat, right? You can wander around the room. Again, take a break when you need to. Just give your hands and wrists a little bit of love as necessary. And then we're going to come into a one-legged dog where we raise one leg and do a little bit of movement there. So the first time, and again, we'll take breaks in between. The first time we're going to come into downward dog, and we're going to lift one leg, but keeping the hips facing the same direction. So both hip bones, these bones in the front of your hips pointing at the ground as you lift one leg. So there's a tendency, because it's easier to lift the leg if we rotate the hip outwards, the leg will lift higher, but don't worry about height. Think more about alignment here. So we're going to come up into downward dog. Keep your knees bent, and that's going to allow your spine to lengthen a little bit here. And then bring one knee up toward the chest, and then start to, without turning the hip to the side, take that leg straight back, press into your arms, reach out with your heel and grow long. And then let's do the other side. So we won't stay too long in each position. Bring the knee in, and then slowly reach it out. And keep the hips pointing straight forward toward the ground. And then bring your foot down. Again, you can either come to child's pose and take a moment there, or if you prefer, sitting up on your heels. Again, maybe releasing the wrist as you need to. Take a few more breaths wherever you are. And then we'll come back to downward dog, and this time we're going to step forward into lunge pose. So if you find, and if you have blocks handy and you find them helpful, which I would say they're definitely helpful, you may or may not need that help to step forward. And then you can always bring your knees down and step forward from a kneeling position too. So however you get there, whether it's from downward dog or from kneeling or somewhere else, you're going to raise. Let's work with the left leg. If you've already come forward with the right, that's fine. Raising the leg, keeping the hips square. Take a breath in. As you exhale, come up onto the toes of the leg that's on the ground. Swing that leg in close to your body and try to get it as close to the front of your mat as you can. Easier with blocks. If you get halfway there and you get stuck, just lower your back knee, step the foot forward, get there however works for you. And then we're coming into a lunge pose. So you may need to wiggle your foot a little forward or a little back to find comfort and ease here. And then think about sucking your whole back leg up into your hip joint and pulling your whole front leg back into your hip joint. So we're squaring the hips, and that engages the muscles of the groins, engages the muscles of the thighs, the buttocks. Okay. And then from here, if you like, you can bring your hands up onto your front knee. Find your balance here. And then releasing down, let's step back to downward dog. Lifting the other leg, again, straight up without turning the hips. Big breath in, raising up onto your toes as you make space to swing that leg through. Again, if it doesn't get there, it's okay. Just find your way there however you can. Sucking the back leg forward, forward leg back, so you're really engaging through the buttocks, through the legs, through the hips. And then if it's comfortable for you, raising up onto, hands onto the front knee. Right, bringing the hands down, this time we're going to step forward. So you're coming to a forward bend, let your head release. Hands come to the shins, we'll come halfway up, the crown of the head reaching forward, tailbone reaching back. Exhale, let your belly come toward your thighs. You can wrap your hands behind your legs if you like, or clasp your hands behind your knees. Keep your knees soft, bent, let your head release. Take a few breaths here. And then we'll slowly roll up. So you can let the arms come forward and dangle. Let the spine slowly uncurl. Allow your head to come up last. Right, and then find yourself upright in mountain pose. Excuse me. I don't know if it's all the melting snow outside, but my nose is running today, like it's part of that great melt. So feet hip distance apart. Coming into an awareness of the movement and rhythm of your breath. And have a sense as you exhale of dropping into your legs, of feeling your heels on the ground. And if it works for you, you can even imagine roots going down from your heels into the center of the earth. So that's your exhale, dropping in, feeling grounded. And then we'll pair that with the opposite, corresponding to the inhale, a feeling of lightness, a feeling of lifting up from the navel to the crown of the head. So you can focus on your inhale for a few breaths. Obviously, you're going to exhale as well. And then start to feel that rhythm. Breathing in, lengthening up. Breathing out, lengthening down. So we're not collapsing down, we're reaching down. Breathing in, lengthening up. Keeping that length as you exhale and lengthen down into the earth. And then letting that go, let your feet come apart a little bit. And you can bring your hands to your hips. We'll circle the hips gently around. So when we do circular movements with the joints, really any movements with the joints, but circular movements gets into the joint in a more complete way. We are lubricating the joint. The only way to lubricate a joint is through movement. So if your hips feel creaky and tight, get up and move them. And I know I spend way more time sitting than I like to. And I have to remind myself just to get up and walk around, move my hips around from time to time. Wonderful. Let's come back to the center. Feet can be a little wider than your shoulders, or the more width between your feet, the more challenging this next position will be, because we're going to reach across to the opposite leg. And the further you reach down toward your foot, the further you have to reach to get there. So you decide, kind of choose your own level here. So we'll start arms to the sides, soft knees. As you reach across, you can also reach down toward the knee, the shin, the ankle, wherever is available to you. And then you'll reach back out to the side, starfish position. And then to the other side. So the arm that's coming behind you can come to your lower back, or you can let it reach up towards the ceiling behind you. So we're twisting, inhale, center, exhale to the side, inhale to the center, exhale to the other side. It is not important how far down you go in this pose. The most important thing is really honoring your limits. So again, it's that rhythmic bilateral movement. It helps to restore our natural rhythms, bring ease to our nervous system. Good, maybe one more to either side. Great, next time you come up, reach all the way up. And we'll do a few forward bends here. So exhaling, releasing forward. Inhaling, lifting up. As always, you can just do the movement and breathe normally if coordinating isn't working for you for whatever reason. Make this your last one, and you can stay in the forward bend, either hands or elbows on the thighs or reaching toward the ground. And here, feel free to find your own movement and rhythm. So maybe it's bending and straightening the legs. Maybe it's walking to one side and walking to the other side. So find some easeful movement here. Even if it's just following the movement of your breath. When you're ready to come up, put some bend in your knees, lengthen your spine, lift all the way up with a nice long spine coming all the way overhead, and releasing. Step the feet back in towards each other. Good, and pause here in mountain pose. Again, just to tune in, notice what you feel, what you're aware of, what's present for you right now. Wonderful. So for the next posture, and we'll bring it into a sun salutation. It would be helpful for many of you to have a block. Okay, if you don't have a block, you can use something that that works like a block, like a book, or even a chair would work. Early in the pandemic, when toilet paper and paper towel were short, I demonstrated using those for in place of blocks. You don't need to put all your weight on the blocks, so just something that helps lift up from the ground. So I'll show you where we're going so you can decide how much you may need to support you. So we'll be moving into a twisted triangle. And so from here, you could just bring your hand across to the opposite leg, and that's an option if you don't have anything handy, or you could place your hand on a block, and that could be on either side of your foot. Okay. So just to give you a little heads up of where we're going so that you can be prepared if you need to, and then find your way towards the front of the mat. So if you're watching this on the replay, just hit pause, get what you need, and come back. And if you're with me live, we'll make do with what we've got. Right, so from here, let's take a breath in, reach up. Exhale, soften your knees as you come forward, any amount that's comfortable, let your head release. And then hands to shins, find a little arch or extension of the spine, and then release. So we're going to step back with the right foot, turning the foot to the side as if we're doing warrior. And then if you have a block, I'm going to invite you to place it a few inches away from your foot on the inside of your foot. So more or less where your other foot was before you stepped back. And then from here, we'll reach up into warrior one. And then let the hands come down to your sides. So whichever leg is in front, so if you step back with your left leg, your right leg is in front. You're going to bring, my left leg is in front, so I'm going to talk that way or I'm going to get confused. So left leg in front, right leg back. If you're opposite, just switch it in your mind. So whichever leg is in front, the same hand comes onto your hip. You'll keep a little bend in your knee and we'll raise the opposite arm. So now right arm is lifting, breathing in. And then exhale, reach down for your block. Inhale, lift. Exhale, reach for your block. Inhale, lift. Exhale, reach for your block, or it could be the floor. If you can reach comfortably to the floor, even with your fingertips, that's fine. And then wherever you are, and again, it could be a chair right beside you, lengthen your spine. So draw your forward hip back a little bit, just as we did in lunge. Lengthen your spine and then slowly start to turn toward your front leg. So you're turning toward the left if your left leg is forward. This arm can stay on your hip or come behind your back, or perhaps reach up towards the ceiling. If you find it hard to balance here, you're not alone. This is a tricky position to balance in. All right, let's come forward. You can swing that arm down. Move your block aside if you're using a block. Bring your hands down, step back to downward dog. Take a moment, walk on the spot a few times. And then we'll lower the knees, all fours. Exhale, child's pose. You can pause here for 1 or 2 breaths. And then back up to all fours. Before you go into downward dog, if you know you need your blocks and you have them handy and you want to bring them under your hands for that stepping forward, go for it. Whenever you're ready, downward dog. And we want to bring the opposite foot forward this time. So if your left foot was forward before, it'll be your right foot coming forward now. If you like, you can swing it back and bring it through. Your back foot, you might step it a bit forward and turn it to the side. And then if you've got a prop, placing it where your other foot would be if you were standing in mountain pose. All right, and then coming upright. If your right leg is forward, right hand is on the hip or vice versa. Little bend in the knee. Inhale, raising the arm on the other side, left arm. Exhale, bring it down to your block or the floor or chair or whatever you've got. And inhale, lift. Exhale, forward. Inhale, lift. Exhale, forward. Great. And then you can stay. So letting your hand rest on the floor, block, chair, or whatever prop is handy. If you like, you can move this leg a little straighter and think about drawing that hip back. So there's a tendency to turn the hips. I'm going to try to keep the hips square. And then start to raise the shoulder, lengthening the spine as you twist, maybe raising the opposite arm. Make sure you're breathing. Right, we'll come down, move the blocks if you need. And then from here, step forward. Lengthening with your hands to shins. Exhale, release, and let's repeat this a few times. So lengthening with a breath in, releasing with an exhale. Lengthening and releasing. If you love the forward bend and you want to stay a few breaths, you can stay. If you like, you can place your elbows on your thighs or hold your elbows for a little traction, or just let the arms dangle. Right, when you're ready, inhale and come all the way up. Exhale and release. Lovely. So coming back to mountain pose for a moment, find your equilibrium again. Drop into your heels. Feel your lower body sinking or growing down, we'll say, as you breathe out. Upper body growing up as you breathe in. And then we're going to kind of shake out the body. And shaking and rocking are excellent ways to bring the body back to a place of equilibrium and ease. So, as babies, we are rocked, right? And that rocking is so soothing for us. And I often find myself when I'm standing or sitting, rocking from side to side, and it's this unconscious sort of attempt to soothe myself or to kind of restore my balance or equilibrium. So you can try that to begin with, just rocking a little side to side. You may notice when people are public speaking, it's very common that they're rocking from foot to foot. It's not uncommon at all. And again, it's a way of bringing some ease into the body. It's actually a little body hack, right? So if you're a nervous public speaker, doing a little rocking can help to bring a little more ease. And then coming onto both feet, we're going to give the body a shake. Now, shaking isn't something we want to do with babies, but it is something that kind of helps things settle, right? So when you shake a pan of something, it settles, it kind of evens out. So you can come a little onto your toes and just shake your body, let your arms hang. You can do this actually with your heels on the ground and just going from the knees, or you can go all the way from the earth by bouncing on your feet, trying to let your shoulders relax. Good. And then shake it all over. Just shake, 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 shake. Even make some noise if you like. Okay, all of these things are really good for just shaking off all of the crap that wants to stick to us in life. So just let it go. And it might take days and days or weeks of shaking, but I don't recommend that. Right? So if you still got some stress in your body, know that we live with stress. It's normal, right? So we're never going to completely get rid of stress, or we'd just be a puddle on the floor, never doing anything. But we can help to manage, right? And find our way back to equilibrium more and more easily. All right, we're going to get down on the ground and wind down a little bit. So take your time to get down and find a comfortable position on the ground. So as I mentioned earlier, the breath is one of our most basic tools of bringing rhythm and flow and balance back into our systems. So when we're stressed or shocked by something, our immediate reaction is to hold the breath, and that tells the nervous system, uh-oh, something's up, and it starts to go into hyper mode to prepare to fight or flee. And this is an ancient response in our bodies. We don't generally need it these days, but it still exists, right? And what goes up must come down. And so when we feel ourselves rising with stress or adrenaline, restoring can be as simple as coming back to the breath. So let's just tune into the breath for a moment. There's no need to change the breath in any way at all. Just letting the breath move through you. You can feel it with your hands as well as internally if you like, or you can just let the hands rest on the ground so that there's more ease and space around your belly and chest for breathing. Whatever works for you. And then I invite you to just do a little bit of movement with your knees from side to side. So at the back of your hips, there's a collection of fused bones called the sacrum. It's part of your spine. It's just above your tailbone. And it typically has a little bit of a ridge in the center. And so you may feel as you rock an inch or two to either side that you sort of shift your weight from one side of your sacrum to the other side of your sacrum. And when we stimulate the sacrum, again, it's very soothing to the system. And this also is right from birth, from as a baby, having that part of our body, if you're imagine holding a baby and tapping on the back of the sacrum. It's that same kind of soothing, rhythmic quality that we're getting here with this rocking side to side. Now, if your sacrum is bonier, there's not as much flesh as on my sacrum, there's plenty here, it may be a bit uncomfortable. So you might need more padding, so you can even just lift up and bring a blanket under your hips if you feel like there's some uncomfortable rubbing. I personally don't require that, but you might. And then if it feels good to you, you can add a bit more of a twist. So letting the knees go one way, the arms can stay on your body or go out to the sides, come back to the center, let your knees go the other way. And really moving slowly so that you can tune into where your stopping point is. Right, so there's this idea that if we force our bodies and push them, they're going to somehow perform better. In yoga, that's really not the case. So the opposite is really true. When we tune into and we allow our bodies and we're kind and we're gentle to them, they tend to trust us more. And when there's trust in the system, we can relax, right? If your body's always thinking you're going to force it into some uncomfortable position, it's going to tense up when you start to move. And so can we restore a sense of trust in our systems? And that is key to feeling good, right? Trusting ourselves physically, mentally, and emotionally can be rather large. So starting with the body. Great. And then eventually making your way back to the center. You might want to lift your hips up and bring them down in a way that feels aligned with your spine. And then bring your knees in toward your chest. Let one hand rest on each knee, and we'll draw the knees forward and back by straightening and bending the elbows. So you can breathe here by inhaling as you straighten the arms, exhaling as you bend the arms. Or just breathe normally. And then see what it would feel like to alternate. So one knee comes in as the other goes out, and then you switch. And here you really want to just not worry about your breathing. So just breathe and switch and switch. And then next time one of your knees is close to your body, you can transfer both hands to that knee, bring your foot to the floor and extend the leg out. Keep that leg on the ground active, so your toes point at the ceiling, your thigh is engaged. And then we're going to take the knee that's in toward the chest and move it from side to side. So you can let it go out into one hand to one side, bring it into the other hand to the other side, add a little movement across the center line of your body, and back out to the side. So side to side like that a few times, finding that easeful rhythm and flow in your own body. And if it feels a bit jerky or if there's tightness in the hip, just notice that. Be curious, be gentle, be kind. And then if it feels like you'd enjoy a deeper twist, you can have opposite hand to knee and roll onto the hip on that side, bringing the leg across the body. Now, you might want to rest your foot on your leg or bring it to the floor or stretch it out, whatever would feel good to you. If you have that block or toilet paper roll handy, you could place it under your knees, some support. And if it feels better for you to keep moving side to side, you can keep moving. Notice where you might be holding tension. If you're holding the twist, relax your jaw. The opposite shoulder might lift up a little bit, and let it do that if that's what it needs to be comfortable. If you find that there's an uncomfortable pull on your shoulder, bring the arm down towards your hip, bend your arm, and let your hand rest on your waist or your hip. If you want more stretch, you're going to raise the arm up along the ground, somewhere where it feels comfortable. Eventually rolling back onto your back, slowly untwisting, bringing both feet to the ground. And again, you'll probably want to lift your hips up and bring them slowly down to bring the spine back to alignment. And then opposite knee in toward your body, other leg extending on the ground. And we'll do the same thing here, opening to one side and then coming across a little bit to the other side. Again, you can keep moving if you like, or you can come into that static twist where you stay for a few breaths and play around with the position of that leg to see what feels right for you. So it could just rest on your other leg as mine is. It could stretch out for more stretch if you like, for more twist. Check in with the opposite shoulder. If it's uncomfortable, move it down, bend your elbow, let it rest on your body. If you want more stretch, draw it up along the ground toward your head. Find your sweet spot where you can relax. And so if you're holding tension, your body's saying there's some stress here that I need to deal with. And that's the opposite of what we're trying to accomplish. It doesn't mean that things never should be challenging, right? But can we find ease in the challenge is the key. Can we tolerate the challenge? Okay. Eventually rolling back onto your back. Again, you want to bring both feet to the ground. Shift your hips back to what feels like center. Again, if you like, you can lift and lower until you feel like you've found alignment between your hips and spine again. And then probably want to bring your knees into your chest. Give yourself a little hug here. And with your knees in close to your body, you can hold each knee separately, or if it's available to you, you might clasp your hands over your shins and rock a little side to side. So for most people here, the weight is higher now than the sacrum. that flattish area at the back of the hips that we were rocking on earlier. For me, I feel the big muscles that support my lower back and get kind of strained from time to time, they're a little more popped out in this position, and it feels good to rock side to side. But if your spine is sticking out more than the muscles that support your spine, it may not feel so comfortable to rock along or side to side over your spine. So you might go back to the forward and back movement, or just hold yourself here and breathe, or whatever feels good to you. And then you can take the legs toward the ceiling, keep your knees soft and bent, arms toward the ceiling as well. Circle your wrists and ankles any which way, one way and the other. And then a gentle shake or a vigorous shake, whatever feels good. And then as you're ready, you can slowly start to make your way to stillness. So we're moving into Shavasana now. If you want to stay laying down, great, fine. Find a comfortable position, whether your legs are bent or straight, doesn't matter. If you prefer to sit, always an option. Not usually a very popular one, but if you find that you want to stay more alert as you relax, then sitting is a good option for that. So take the time you need to get comfortable. Make sure you're warm enough. Your head is supported if you need it. And that your full body is supported so you can relax. So if your knees are bent, I generally recommend, if it's okay for your hips, to take your feet a little bit wider apart and let your knees rest against each other. And that way you don't have to work to hold your knees up. So that your body can let go as completely as possible. So as you find your way to stillness, come back to that rhythm of your breath, that rhythm that's always with us, except for those brief moments where we might hold the breath for whatever reason. And just notice your unique flow and rhythm of breath. Each breath is a little bit different from the other breaths, a little bit different in the length and the depth. And each breath of yours is different from anyone else who may be breathing at the same time. So find your unique flow. Try not to control the breath, though usually when you bring your attention to it, there seems to be a desire to control when we're noticing the breath. Let's see if you can just breathe as normally as possible. Allow your muscles to soften. So as you exhale, feel yourself letting go of tension all through the body at a very superficial level, sort of on the edges of your body, the extremities of your body. As you exhale, feel yourself drop and release, relax and soften. Feel the muscles around your jaw, your neck, and your face release. Bring your awareness over to your right shoulder and arm and allow it to release and relax. And then shift your attention to your left arm. Allow it to release and relax. And then back to the right arm. Is there any more softening and letting go that can happen there? And back to the left arm. Is there any extra softening and releasing that you can find in your left arm now? And then let both arms release, let them go. Tuning into your belly and chest, your upper back, your lower back, your whole torso really up down to your pelvis. And as you exhale, imagine a wave of softening from your chest to your belly to your hips, each breath. Exhale, chest, relax, belly, relax, pelvis drops down. And then pour your attention and awareness into your right leg. Soften and relax your right leg. Feel it heavy on the ground. And then shift to pour your attention down into your other leg, your left leg. Let it soften, relax, and release. And then go back to your right leg. Notice any holding there. Soften where you can. Let go as you're able. And then back to your left leg. Is there any more ease you can find there? And then with your next exhale, release and relax both legs from the hips right to the toes. Feel your whole body dropping a little bit more, as if you could sink right into the mat or the carpet or the floor or wherever you're lying. And if you're sitting, feel what's connected to the ground and let that relax down as you keep a nice, soft, upright position with your upper body. I'd like to share with you today a little bit of a chant that talks about this rhythm and flow in all of nature. The rhythms of the tides, the moon, the fire, the rhythms of the stars and the weather. Right? All of nature has its own natural rhythm. And when we can really tune into our own natural rhythm, we find our place in nature and we feel our wholeness, our essential wholeness. It's always there. We just lose sight of it sometimes when we find ourselves deeply embedded in stress in our lives. So restoring our balance, restoring our connection to nature. And that's the subject of this chant today. Yo pam pushpam veda pushpavan prajavan pashuman bhavati Chandramava apam pushpam pushpavan prajavan Pashuman bhavati ya evam veda yo pamayatanam veda ayatanavam bhavati Agnirva apamayatanam ayatanavan bhavati yogner ayatanam veda ayatanavan bhavati Apova Agnir Ayatanam Ayatanavam Bhavati Ya Evam Veda So come back to the rhythm of your own breath, the awareness of that natural rhythm. If it feels right for you, you can let the breath deepen a little bit so you're inviting a little more breath in and out with each cycle. Never straining, of course. And if you prefer to stay and integrate a little longer in Shavasana, please do. This part of the class for me is so important in integrating the work and bringing it all to completion, rather than just jumping up and running back to your life, to really let the lessons in your body sink deeply in. So if you're ready to start moving, you can move starting with your fingers and toes or whatever feels right for you, gradually moving and stretching again in any way that you prefer. And when you're ready, you can roll onto one side to make that transition back upright more easeful. And taking your time to come upright if you're choosing to come back upright at this point. And whether you're still lying down or you've come to sit, let's come back to where we started today. So just a reminder of that butterfly hug, crossing the hands, bringing the pads of your thumbs together, hands on an angle, pointing up toward the ceiling, fingertips below your collarbones. And even for me, just bringing my hands over my chest like this gives me a feeling of protection, safety, feeling of grounding. And so you can simply be here in this position, or if you want to add the tapping, that bilateral tapping, one hand and the other. And it's been shown to restore balance in our nervous system and bring us back to equilibrium. This slow rhythmic tapping. And as you do this, bringing to mind something you're grateful for right now. Thanking yourself for taking this time, this self-care time. And maybe creating an intention for the day or week ahead. To check in with yourself, be kind to yourself, and find those rhythms and the flow that helps you to feel more aligned and more whole within your being. Nice deep breath, exhale completely. You can bring the palms together if you like. Namaste.